4 News investigation that has uncovered millions of dollars of wasteful spending after Hurricane Irma money that all of us are going to have to pay.
CBS 4's Jim DeFede first raised concerns about this spending more than 6 months ago, but now for the first time we know the true costs. Jim is here now with the results of the investigation. Jim.
We're talking about debris removal. Before the storm, there were companies ready to do the work at rates that had been competitively bid to ensure that taxpayers would be protected. But 48 hours after Hurricane Irma hit the Keys, Governor Rick Scott went in a different direction, and that turned out to be a very costly decision.
I think what you're going to see today all around the state is you're going to see more resources.
After Hurricane Irma, Governor Rick Scott took responsibility for the state's recovery.
Get this all cleaned up and hopefully get more tourists back in our state.
As part of that cleanup, the governor ignored companies already hired to remove debris and instead brought in more expensive companies to do the work. Now the bills are coming due, and we are learning the governor's emergency debris removal contracts will end up costing the taxpayers an additional $28 to $30 million. That, according to an analysis by CBS 4 News, which reviewed more than 1,000 pages of invoices submitted by the two companies awarded the contracts, Munia Construction Management, better known as MCM, and Community Asphalt. We then compared their rates to the rates charged by the three companies that the governor ignored. Those companies, Ceres Environmental, Bergeron, and Ashbridge. We chose those three companies because all three of them told me that they were willing to do the work in the Florida Keys, but were never asked. Ron Bergeron is the head of Bergeron Emergency Services.
We would have done whatever we were asked to do. Of course.
That's the bottom line.
Of course.
You would have done whatever you were asked
Absolutely.
to do.
Tonight, we're learning the governor did not hold himself or his administration to that same standard.
As CBS 4 News first reported in October, the rates being charged, especially by MCM, were believed to be the highest in the state. For example, MCM is charging taxpayers $913 a mile for every curb and gutter they sweep. Ceres would have charged $123 a mile, Ashbridge $32, and Bergeron just $12. Are you aware of what MCM's rate was for per mile work?
No.
It was over $900 a mile.
Seemed a little high.
To haul rock, sand, soil, and sediment, MCM charged the state $77.50 a cubic yard. Ashbridge would have charged $11, while Ceres and Bergeron would have charged between $6.50 and $15.95. To remove a washing machine or a dryer or a stove, MCM charged the state $969 for each and every item. Ashbridge would have charged $75, Ceres $48.15, and Bergeron $60. However, it wasn't until MCM and Community Asphalt started submitting bills for all their services that the true cost to taxpayers of these emergency contracts could be measured. We looked at $30.1 million worth of bills submitted by MCM. If that same work had been done by Ashbridge, it would have cost taxpayers $10.4 million. Ceres Environmental would have done it for $9 million, and Bergeron, $8.5 million. A similar story can be found with Community Asphalt. We reviewed $13.5 million in invoices they submitted. Ashbridge would have done it for $5.5 million, Ceres $5.6 million, and Bergeron would have done that same job for $4.1 million.
This is a rookie mistake made by a state that shouldn't be making rookie mistakes.
Scott Amy is with the Project on Government Oversight, a nonpartisan group in Washington that examines wasteful spending by the federal government.
There are pre-existing contracts that exist at the local level, the state level, and even the United States government has pre-existing debris removal contracts. The state could have used any of those contracting vehicles, and they decided not to. And I worry that then that is going to then translate to the federal taxpayer overpaying. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if, the state of Florida ends up having FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General, and probably Congress asking some questions about how they went about this process.
The reason why Amy is concerned about federal tax dollars being wasted is that the president has already promised to reimburse the state for the cost of the cleanup.
It's outrageous, and it's not reasonable. It can't be justified.
When we first uncovered the existence of the emergency contracts last year, we interviewed the founder of Ashford, Randy Perkins. Now, 6 months later, his opinion hasn't changed.
With the benefit of hindsight and really being able to go through the numbers and dissect them, it might even be worse than I thought it was back then.
Perkins said the $913 a mile MCM charge for sweeping curbs and gutters showed no one was reviewing the bids and that the entire process was rushed to the detriment of taxpayers.
That one line item, okay, should have stood out to people at DOT evaluating these bids and said, we're making a huge mistake here.
Ceres Environmental issued a statement. The contracts are in the public record. The prices speak for themselves.
If this was an open bid and not selected people to bid, you probably would have gotten much more competitive rates.
Amy, with the Project on Government Oversight, said Governor Rick Scott has to take responsibility for what occurred.
It just seems as if they made some mistakes in this administration that should not have been made, and the likely result is, that they're going to overspend, and taxpayers are going to end up picking up a lot of that tab.
Back out here now with Jim. This is an amazing investigation. So the process was rushed. How long did it take to review all those other bids?
So here's the thing. So on September 12th, the state of Florida, the Florida Department of Transportation, started inviting us a handful of companies to bid. They did not publicly advertise it. They selected a few firms and invited them to bid. They put that out in the afternoon of the 12th and demanded that all responses be back by the 13th, the next day by 11 a.m. And by that afternoon, they had already picked their winners.
Do we know who within the governor's administration was in charge of reviewing all of these bids and then making the final decision? Do we have that person's name?
Well, it goes under the Department of Transportation. So Mike Dew is the secretary of the Department of Transportation. It was done through District 6, which is the local district. But look, decisions like this on awarding this contract are not made at the local level. This is something that Tallahassee and the Division of Emergency Management was very much hands-on about.
Wouldn't the counter argument to that be, though, that we had to rush it out because we had to clear the debris as quickly as possible? We didn't want to leave people waiting. We didn't want to,
So two important points. This actually slowed the process. The argument is that by having pre-existing contracts in place, you get a better rate. By going with the emergency contract, you saw MCM and Community Asphalt paying these exorbitant prices. What ended up happening was that the rest of the Keys and other parts of the state, had contractors that were ready to do the work, except they lost their crews because why should I work for you in Miami-Dade or Broward or in Marathon and get paid X amount of dollars when I can get paid 5X if I quit you and go work for MCM and Community Asphalt? So what you did was you refocused resources in one part of the Keys and left the rest of the state to suffer.
You have a statement from the governor.
I was going to say, we have to get to this. So let's be clear. Nobody is accusing any illegality here. The governor had the right to do what he did. But the question is whether or not it was appropriate. The governor's office issued a statement late this afternoon. It is inaccurate to compare pre-disaster contracts with emergency debris removal contracts. It is comparing apples to oranges and must be reflected in your story. We want to be clear. Emergency crews were brought in to supplement ongoing work because the local government requested FDOT's assistance to quickly solve the issue so families could return home. FDOT was asked to help and immediately provide assistance because that is what taxpayers deserve. I will tell you tomorrow we're going to have a part of the story that shows that that is not accurate. The person who they claim requested the assistance, we have a sworn deposition from him in which he said he never made the request, and that the government, and the first part of the governor's argument that you don't rely on pre-existing contracts contradicts what the governor has said all along, which is states and cities and counties have to rely on their contracts. I have to make this point. MCM and Community Asphalt also sent us statements. They defended their work. Again, nobody is accusing them of any wrongdoing here. If the state was willing to pay them the exorbitant rates, they had every right to take it. But, and also, let's see, this is...
That's back to the statement you already read.
That was the statement we already read. So, but I wanted to just make clear that MCM and Community Asphalt said they did the work. They did it satisfactorily. They won the bid through this emergency process, and so be it.
Look, nice work if you can get it, right?
Yeah.
All right, Jim. Jim DeFede, thanks very much.